One stormy Sunday morning, a desperate crowd filled the grand hall of Divine Light Ministries. Murmurs swept through the pews as people craned their necks to glimpse Reverend Serena, popularly known as Mother Vision. Some said she could see straight into a person's soul, revealing secrets no one else could know. Others swore she had the power to speak directly with God. But today, something unsettling hung in the air. Suddenly, a scream echoed from the side of the hall. A woman named Grace, one of Mother Vision's trusted aides, rushed to the front, wide-eyed and trembling. She did it again. Mother healed another. The congregation erupted in cheers. But Sarah, a quiet churchgoer who had attended for months, noticed something strange. She had seen this very man, supposedly crippled, walking around the market just days before. Doubt gnawed at her heart, but who would believe her? Mother Vision was powerful, untouchable. Her followers would defend her fiercely to protect her. Years ago, Serena had been a simple girl from a humble, God-fearing family. Her parents raised her to be honest, devoted, and to walk in the light. She was the shining hope of their church, leading Sunday school, organizing prayer meetings, and singing in the choir. Everyone adored her, and some even said she was destined for greatness. But no one foresaw how her path would twist in such a dark direction. Years later, after struggling to build her ministry without success, Serena attended a grand conference for pastors. There, she met several famous preachers who seemed to hold a secret power. The leader, Pastor Marcus, pulled her aside. "You're trying to be godly, but you'll never make an impact until you're willing to sacrifice." He spoke about a special ceremony, one that would require a significant offering from her. At first, Serena hesitated, but Pastor Marcus promised it would grant her the influence she desperately sought. Driven by her desire to succeed, she agreed. That night, she participated in a strange ritual, giving up her chance to ever have children as an offering. The pastors gathered around, chanting, while Serena's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation. When it was over, she felt a new power settle around her like a dark cloak. She couldn't explain it, but something had changed. After returning from the conference, Serena's fortunes began to shift. People started flocking to her services, and soon the entire country heard of Mother Vision. Her church began filling up with members from every corner of the nation and beyond. Her fame grew, and with it, her wealth. But this was only the beginning. Unknown to her followers, Reverend Serena, the woman they worshipped as Mother Vision, was far more than just a deceitful prophetess. Beneath her human exterior lay an ancient, sinister secret. Serena was half human, half serpent, a hybrid of darkness whose origin traced back to a mysterious underwater covenant she had entered after joining the occult. Every midnight, she would disappear from her luxurious mansion, leaving the world of mortals behind. In the dead of night, she would shed her human form and transform into a creature with scales as dark as midnight. This transformation marked her journey to the underwater kingdom where her true allegiance lay. Serena would slip silently into the river behind her mansion, vanishing beneath the waters as if swallowed by the earth itself. There, in the depths, she would join her occult brothers and sisters, other pastors and prophets who had pledged themselves to the marine kingdom. There, they shared twisted wisdom, dark strategies, and skills to keep their congregations bound in deception. For Serena, this was where she drew her power. The Marine Queen, an imposing figure with serpentine features, bestowed upon her strength, vision, and the ability to see into the lives of her followers. But there was a price for this power: her soul, her humanity, and perhaps most disturbingly, her womb. Serena's sacrifices to the Marine Kingdom had left her barren, a trade she had willingly made to gain authority and influence in the physical world. Back at her church, no one suspected a thing. To them, Serena was a holy prophetess, and they were oblivious to her midnight disappearances. Her congregation continued to grow as people flocked from far and wide, desperate for miracles, healing, and deliverance. Those who sought her favor were willing to pay any price, from cash offerings to livestock and even precious family heirlooms. Serena's ministry had become a relentless machine, swallowing people's wealth and hopes alike. Within months, she began implementing strange new practices. Each member was handed a mirror, which she called the Mirror of Life. This mirror, she would say with a commanding tone, is blessed by the Almighty Himself. Every morning, look into it, speak to it, and you will see parts of your spirit that need healing. Her congregants cherished these mirrors, believing they were on a path to spiritual growth. But in reality, the mirrors were tools connected to the marine world. Through them, Mother Vision could peer into her members' lives, studying their weaknesses, secrets, and fears. One Sunday, Mother called a young woman named Maya to the front. "Last night, you argued with your husband about his job, didn't you?" she said, a sly smile crossing her lips. Maya gasped. "How did you know?" The congregation erupted into a frenzy, marveling at Mother's ability to know every detail of their lives. In truth, she had used her mirror to summon Maya's spirit the night before, gathering all she needed to make the revelation sound divine. The church soon introduced holy water and miracle oil, bottled with simple labels but sold at exorbitant prices. Serena would wave her hands over the items, claiming that they could cure any sickness, fix any marriage, and even bring financial blessings. When Sarah saw a struggling mother give her last savings for a tiny bottle of miracle oil, she clenched her fists, feeling her suspicions deepen. The next Sunday, Reverend Serena's voice echoed through the church as she scanned the congregation with piercing eyes, her gaze landing on a young man seated in the middle row. His name was Daniel, a quietly returned graduate who had just come back from overseas with his mother to visit Serena's church. Having heard of Mother Vision and her supposed divine revelations, they thought it wise to seek a blessing. Serena's face lit up as she beckoned Daniel forward. "Young man, please come forward." Daniel hesitated, but his mother nudged him, whispering, "Go, this could be your blessing." As Daniel stepped up to the front, Serena raised her hand in what looked like a gesture of divine revelation. She took a deep breath, then announced dramatically, "The Lord has revealed something troubling to me, my son." The congregation was silent, hanging on every word. Serena looked at Daniel with a heavy gaze, shaking her head slowly. "Young man, your life battery is running dangerously low. I see darkness ahead. If nothing is done, you won't live to see your 30s. Marriage, children, all of that will be lost to you unless you act now." Daniel felt his heart begin to pound. Life battery? He didn't understand, but he could see Serena's grave expression. He swallowed nervously. "Mother, please, what does that mean?" Serena placed a comforting hand on his shoulder and lowered her voice so the tension in the air thickened. "It means, my son, that if something isn't done quickly, you won't live long. But fear not, Mother Vision is here to help." Daniel's face turned pale. His mother gasped, clutching her chest in fear. But Serena continued, raising her hand as if bestowing hope on him. "The Lord has provided a solution. There is a way to renew your life battery, to ensure you live a long and prosperous life." She leaned in closer, her eyes narrowing with intensity. "You must make a sacrifice, a powerful seed, something that costs you deeply. For the Lord blesses those who give from the heart." Daniel's mother held him tight, her eyes wide with worry. "What kind of sacrifice, mother?" she stuttered. Serena nodded as if she had expected the question. "The Lord has directed me," she said, her voice dropping to a hush, "that your son's life can be renewed with the sacrifice of a cow, not just any cow, but one that symbolizes new life, strong, healthy, and without blemish." Daniel's mind reeled at the thought. He had heard of sacrifices before but had never been asked to make one for himself. "Mother, I don't know where to get a cow right now." Serena waved her hand dismissively. "Do not worry, my son. The Lord understands. You need not go out and find a cow yourself. You can simply convert this sacrifice into a seed, give the amount, and I will take care of the rest. The church has a way to handle these things." You just need to be obedient and trust in the word of the Lord." Daniel's mother whispered frantically in his ear, urging him to comply. "Daniel, don't delay. Just do what Mother Vision says. Your life is worth more than any amount of money." Reluctantly, he agreed, pulling out his checkbook and writing a large sum. Serena accepted the check with a smile of satisfaction. "My son, your obedience has pleased the Lord. Your life is now in God's hands, and He will reward you for your sacrifice." Relieved but still shaken, Daniel returned to his seat, his mother clinging to him and thanking the prophetess profusely. But what he didn't know was that Serena had no intention of buying any cow or offering any sacrifice. As she did with many others, she took the money straight to her ongoing project fund, adding it to the luxurious mansion she was constructing on the outskirts of town. This wasn't the first time she had used scare tactics to squeeze offerings from her congregation, and it wouldn't be the last. Daniel's experience was just one of many in Serena's church. Sarah watched from a distance as she gathered more stories like this. She saw the pattern and knew that these prophecies were nothing more than calculated lies to drain her followers financially. She began to find a way to expose Serena's evil doings, though she knew it wouldn't be easy. She prayed that her efforts would one day set people like Daniel free, opening their eyes to the truth about Serena's schemes. Sarah's resolve strengthened by her desire to protect innocent lives from falling into the same trap. Despite her growing doubts, Sarah kept attending the church, quietly observing. Then, one service, she noticed something she couldn't ignore. An elderly man in a wheelchair rolled up to the altar. Mother Vision placed her hand on his forehead, murmuring a prayer. The man suddenly stood up, shaking with supposed new strength, while the congregation erupted in joyous shouts. Sarah, however, recognized him from a street market. He wasn't disabled at all, he was an actor paid to pretend for this miracle. Over time, Serena had become one of the wealthiest women in the area, with a mansion filled with gold-plated furniture, expensive cars, and personal staff. She called it a reward from God, but Sarah knew that no blessings had arrived for her poor neighbors, who continued to give until they had nothing left. Amid all her schemes, Serena wielded her power not only to deceive but to control lives, even breaking up families for her own selfish desires. She took a particular interest in wealthy, influential men who attended her church, especially those she sensed could be easily manipulated. If she set her sights on a married man, she would concoct visions and divine revelations that cast doubt upon his wife, creating chaos in the household. During one particularly scandalous service, Serena singled out a successful businessman named Mr. Johnson. She called him to the front of the congregation, dramatically raising her hand as though receiving a divine message. "Brother Johnson," she declared, "the Lord is showing me a troubling vision, a dark cloud surrounding your household. Someone close to you, someone you trust deeply, is working against your blessings." As expected, Mr. Johnson looked alarmed, his eyes widened with shock and fear. "Prophetess, who could it be?" he asked desperately, eager to protect his fortune and his family. Serena leaned in, lowering her voice to a solemn whisper. "It's your wife. I see her spirit entangled in a web of envy and greed, blocking your breakthroughs," she added. "But fear not, Mother Vision is here to help you. With my special guidance, I can break this curse." Over time, Serena convinced Mr. Johnson that his wife's supposed negative energy was the reason for his business struggles. She encouraged him to distance himself emotionally, assuring him that deliverance would come if he followed her instructions. What she didn't tell Mr. Johnson was her real motive. She intended to draw him closer to her, knowing he was vulnerable. She began sending him private messages, inviting him to special prayer sessions at her mansion under the pretext of helping his spirit. These sessions, however, soon took a different turn. Serena manipulated Mr. Johnson, feeding him flattering words and assuring him of a life filled with blessings if he would satisfy her desires. In no time, Mr. Johnson found himself entangled in an affair with Serena, convinced that his loyalty to her would bring him divine favor. This pattern repeated with other wealthy men in the congregation. Serena sowed seeds of doubt between husbands and wives. Sarah, the young woman who had been investigating Serena, grew increasingly disturbed as she learned of these manipulative tactics. This wasn't just spiritual deception, it was a web of lies that destroyed families and tore relationships apart. Serena's actions were beyond sinful, they were predatory. Another unsettling practice was that Serena claimed she could bless any jerry can of water, transforming it into a holy remedy for all problems, illness, financial troubles. For a fee, people would leave their jerry cans of water in her office for prayers. Behind closed doors, Serena would simply pour a pack of salt and sugar into each jerry can, saying, "Now take this water home and drink from it each day." The salt and sugar created a slight change in taste, fooling congregants into believing the water was truly blessed. One evening, Sarah overheard a conversation between two of Serena's closest aides, Michael and Anna, discussing the jerry can tricks. "Can you believe they're paying that much just for a dash of salt and sugar?" Anna laughed, shaking her head. Sarah felt a surge of fear but stood her ground, her heart filled with the courage to see her mission through. She knew Serena's days of deception were numbered. The truth was out there, ready to be revealed, and there was no turning back now. On another fateful night, driven by a mixture of curiosity and courage, Sarah decided to follow Serena. She waited in the bushes near the river behind Serena's mansion, clutching her phone tightly, hoping to capture whatever dark secret lay hidden. As the clock struck midnight, Sarah saw Serena emerge from her mansion. She moved gracefully toward the river, her steps almost gliding across the ground. Sarah's heart raced as she watched Serena pause at the riverbank. The prophetess looked up at the sky and began chanting in a strange language, one that sounded ancient and unsettling. Then, before Sarah's very eyes, Serena's form began to change. Her skin shimmered, and scales emerged, covering her body as her legs melded together. Her eyes glowed as she slid silently into the water, disappearing beneath the surface with a splash. Sarah gasped, barely able to process what she had seen. She realized then that Serena was not just a fraud, she was something beyond human, something malevolent. Sarah stumbled back, her mind racing. This truth was more terrifying than she could have ever imagined. Serena wasn't merely deceiving her congregation, she was manipulating them with powers that stemmed from the depths of a dark, occult world. The next morning, Sarah returned to the church, her spirit heavy but resolved. She knew now that her mission was not just to reveal Serena's fraudulent practices but to expose the dangerous forces she was harnessing. But Serena, aware of Sarah's growing suspicion, took notice. Her piercing gaze lingered on Sarah during the service, her smile as sharp as a blade. During the altar call that day, Serena announced that she had a special blessing for one person in the congregation who was called to serve a divine mission. She fixed her gaze on Sarah, who froze as Serena called her forward. "Sarah, come forward," Serena's voice was smooth but laced with an undertone of menace. "The Lord has shown me that you carry a heavy burden. Come, let Mother Vision lift it from you." Sarah's heart pounded, but she stepped forward, not wanting to reveal her fear. As Serena laid a cold hand on her forehead, Sarah felt a chilling sensation run through her body. She heard Serena whisper in her ear, "You are treading dangerous waters, my child. Be careful, for some secrets are not meant to be uncovered." Sarah swallowed hard but refused to back down. She would continue her mission to expose Serena, but she now knew the stakes were higher than she had imagined. There was no turning back now. Sarah's courage became her guiding light as she continued to gather evidence against Serena. With every passing day, she uncovered more layers of deception and dark manipulation, which confirmed that Serena's reach went beyond mere trickery. It was now clear to Sarah that her mission was about more than just exposing Serena's lies, it was about freeing innocent souls bound by Serena's sinister practices. When Sarah finally released her gathered recordings, photos, and testimonies to the media, the world was shocked. Reports spread like wildfire, exposing Serena's deceitful miracles, staged healings, and occult connections. Congregants who had once revered her now reeled with disbelief, feeling betrayed by the person they once called Mother Vision. Many wept openly, mourning the years and money they had poured into her ministry, only to realize it had all been a carefully orchestrated illusion. In her final address to the church, Sarah spoke to the congregation, offering words of wisdom. "My brothers and sisters, this experience has taught me something crucial. Just because someone calls themselves a prophet or a servant of God doesn't mean they are. We must be discerning and vigilant, seeking the truth beyond appearances. Not every church or prayer house represents God's light, and not everyone who claims to be a pastor is genuine." Sarah went on to remind everyone that while Serena's story had cast a dark shadow, it didn't mean all spiritual leaders were deceivers. There are true servants of God, men and women who work tirelessly in humility and sincerity to bring God's love and truth to His people. They don't ask for wealth or demand strange sacrifices. They simply live in a way that reflects the goodness and mercy of the Almighty. Thank you for watching. Please, if you enjoyed this story, consider liking, commenting your thoughts, and subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much, and see you in my next story.